The poor girl only had $5 for a blind date. The single dad CEO at the next table watched her and, "Hello everyone. Before we begin today's story, I have a small favor to ask. Please hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss our channel's new videos. It's quick, free, and the best way to support us in bringing you more dramatic stories. Your support means the world to us. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now, let's dive into today's story. She sat alone at the dimly lit restaurant, her fingers nervously tracing the edges of the napkin. The soft hum of conversation around her seemed distant, as if she were in a world of her own. Maria, wearing a second-hand dress that had seen better days, glanced around the room, her heart pounding in her chest. This wasn't where she belonged. She had never been to a place this fancy, and yet, here she was, waiting for a man she had never met before. She was supposed to be on a blind date, but with only $5 left in her wallet, it felt like a dream too far out of reach. She had promised her best friend Jenny she would go through with it, but now, sitting at the table in the upscale restaurant, all she could think about was how desperately she needed a job, how badly she needed a break. Table 7, she muttered under her breath, scanning the room again. She spotted a man sitting by himself at the far corner of the restaurant, his posture confident, his dark hair neatly styled, and his attention focused on the phone in his hand. Maria's heart skipped a beat. This had to be him. She took a deep breath, her hands shaking slightly as she stood up and walked toward the table. "Hi, you must be Kevin," she said with a nervous smile, trying to sound confident, but her voice wavered slightly. The man looked up, startled, his brow furrowing in confusion. Hi, I'm not Kevin," he said, blinking at her as if she had just appeared from nowhere. His gaze softened slightly, and before he could say anything else, Maria realized her mistake. Her face flushed bright red, and she quickly turned to leave. "I'm so sorry, I thought you were someone else," she stammered, her embarrassment taking over. But just as she was about to dash out of the restaurant, she heard him speak again. "Wait," he said, his voice calm. "It's fine, really." Maria hesitated for a moment, her hand still on the door handle. She turned back to face him, confused. "Are you sure?" she asked, her voice still a little shaky. The man smiled warmly. "Yeah, I mean, blind dates are always a little awkward, right?" He gestured to the empty seat across from him. "Please sit down. I'll buy you a drink. Maybe we can still talk." Maria's nerves didn't completely fade, but his invitation felt genuine. She smiled awkwardly and walked back to the table, sitting down slowly. The man put his phone down, and they both fell into an easy silence for a moment. Maria couldn't help but notice how different he looked from everyone else here. While she wore a dress that was a little too tight, he was dressed in an impeccable suit that looked expensive. "Thank you for being so understanding," she said, fidgeting with the napkin on the table. "I'm Maria, by the way." "Liam," he replied, his tone surprisingly warm. "So what do you do, Maria?" he asked, his curiosity genuine. She hesitated for a moment, unsure how to answer. "I'm a waitress," she said, shrugging slightly. "It's not glamorous, but it helps pay the bills." Liam nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "I work in tech," he said simply, a little vague. "I guess I'm not too glamorous either." Maria smiled softly, relieved that the conversation was flowing easily. She found herself talking more than usual, sharing stories about her struggles, her hopes of someday opening her own art studio, and how hard she worked just to stay afloat. Liam listened attentively, laughing at her jokes, his genuine interest in her words making her feel at ease. For the first time in a long while, Maria felt like someone was actually listening, not because they had to, but because they wanted to. As the evening wore on, the awkwardness began to melt away, and the two of them found themselves in a surprisingly comfortable conversation. But just as things seemed to be going well, Maria's phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her stomach sank. "Hey Maria, where are you?" "I'm at table 7, looking forward to meeting you, Kevin," the text read. Her heart dropped into her stomach as she read it again, her face turning even redder than before. She looked at Liam in shock. "Wait, you're not Kevin, are you?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's smile faltered for a brief moment before he shook his head, looking genuinely apologetic. "No, I'm not," he said softly. "But I guess it's my fault, too. I should have said something sooner." Maria's embarrassment felt like it was swallowing her whole. "Oh my God, she muttered, standing up quickly. I'm so sorry. This is just so embarrassing. She turned to leave, but Liam called after her. Maria, wait, he said again, standing up from the table. She paused, still mortified. It's okay. It really is, he continued, walking over to her. We can start over, if you'd like. Maria stopped and turned to face him, her mind racing. She had no idea what to say, but the kindness in his voice made her pause. Could she actually do this? Could she give herself the chance to be seen for who she really was? She took a deep breath and smiled shyly. Okay, she said quietly. Maybe we could try this again? Liam smiled back, a hint of mischief in his eyes. I'd like that. They both sat back down, and the conversation picked up again, this time with less tension, more ease, and the promise of something unexpected. Maria still had no idea who Liam really was, but somehow, she was beginning to feel like it didn't matter. That night, Maria walked back to her tiny apartment, the city lights blurring through the drizzle. The restaurant's glow still lingered in her mind, along with the image of Liam's calm smile. She had not meant to stay that long, but somehow the evening had turned into one of the most genuine conversations she had had in years. As she climbed the creaking stairs to her small one-room flat, she let out a deep sigh. The heater was broken again, and the air smelled faintly of damp concrete. She set her purse on the counter and pulled out her phone. There were 2 unread messages from Jenny. So, how did the date go? And then another one. Don't tell me you chickened out again. Maria stared at the screen, a small laugh escaping her lips. You have no idea, she whispered, typing back quickly. I sat at the wrong table. Talked to a stranger for an hour. He wasn't Kevin. A few seconds later, Jenny's reply came in. What? You didn't. Tell me everything. Maria smiled, shaking her head. He was actually really nice, she texted, and funny. Just not my date. Jenny replied instantly. Girl, this sounds like the start of a movie. Maybe fate's got jokes. Maria put the phone down, laughing quietly. Fate? Yeah, right, she muttered. She kicked off her shoes and sank into the couch, her stomach fluttering with a feeling she could not quite name. Across town, in a high-rise office overlooking the city, Liam sat behind his desk long after everyone had gone home. The room was silent except for the hum of traffic below. He should have been reviewing quarterly reports or preparing for the board meeting tomorrow, but his mind kept drifting back to that restaurant, to the girl with second-hand shoes and nervous laughter. There had been something disarming about her honesty, something he could not shake. Most people saw him as a name, a title, a balance sheet. Maria had seen him as a person, even if by accident. He leaned back in his chair, staring out the window. For the first time in a long while, he felt curious. The next morning, Maria woke up late to the sound of her alarm blaring. She scrambled to get ready for her morning shift at the diner. Her uniform was wrinkled, and her shoes pinched her toes, but she smiled anyway. Life was messy, but at least she had a story to tell. The diner was already buzzing when she arrived. You're late, Brooks, her manager called out from behind the counter. Sorry, Mr. Harris, she said quickly, tying her apron. She began pouring coffee for a table of regulars when she heard a familiar voice behind her. I'll have whatever she recommends, the voice said. Her hand froze midair. She turned slowly and saw him, Liam, standing there in a gray coat, a faint smile on his lips. You again? She asked, half surprised, half amused. You make that sound like a bad thing, he replied lightly. She crossed her arms, trying to hide her nervousness. Do you always show up where strangers work? Or is this a one-time coincidence? Let's call it coincidence, he said, sitting down at the counter. Or maybe I just wanted to see if you survived your wrong table adventure. Maria rolled her eyes, but could not help smiling. Barely. She poured him a cup of coffee. On the house, she said, setting it down in front of him. Careful, it's strong. So am I, he said with a smirk. She laughed despite herself, and for a moment, the world felt light. As she refilled his cup, he looked around the small diner, the cracked tiles, the flickering neon sign, the hum of the old jukebox, and then back at her. You really work hard, don't you? He asked. She shrugged. Someone has to. There was no bitterness in her voice, just quiet resilience. It caught him off guard. Before leaving, he placed a business card on the counter. If you ever want to grab coffee again, somewhere that does not involve mistaken identities, call me, he said. She picked up the card, reading his name, Liam Parker. The title underneath made her blink. CEO, Parker Tech Group. Her breath hitched slightly, but by the time she looked up, he was already walking out the door. The bell above it chimed softly as he left, and she stood frozen, staring at the door. The card trembled slightly in her hand. CEO, she whispered, her voice barely audible. Jenny was right. Maybe fate did have a sense of humor. She slipped the card into her apron pocket, her heart beating faster than she wanted to admit. For the rest of the day, Maria tried to focus on her work, but her mind kept wandering back to that smile and that card. What was a man like him doing at her diner? And why did it feel like her life had just started to change without her even realizing it? The next few days passed in a blur for Maria. The diner was as busy as ever, and she was running on empty, juggling orders, cleaning tables, and barely getting time to eat. But despite the chaos, her mind kept drifting back to Liam and the card he had left for her. CEO of Parker Tech Group. The name alone was enough to make anyone stop and think. She couldn't shake the feeling that this wasn't just another coincidence. Something about him intrigued her, but she wasn't sure why. He wasn't like the usual customers who came into the diner, the ones who only saw her as just another waitress. Liam had seen her for who she really was. She had tried to push the thought aside, to focus on her day-to-day life, but every time she glanced at the card tucked into her apron, the question lingered. Should she call him? It wasn't like she had anything to lose. Or did she? That night, after her shift ended, Maria sat at the small kitchen table in her apartment, staring at the card in front of her. It was just a card, she reminded herself, but there was something about it that felt different. She had never expected something like this to happen in her life, especially not after everything she had been through. But here she was, holding the phone in her hand, thinking about dialing the number. Maybe she could use a little help. Maybe she could take a chance. She had nothing to lose, right? Her fingers hovered over the screen, but then, she hesitated. What would she even say? Hi, I'm the waitress you met at the diner, remember me? It sounded ridiculous. But then again, it wasn't like she was calling a friend. This was a CEO. She didn't even know why he had left his number for her in the first place. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she took a deep breath and pressed the call button. The phone rang twice before a familiar voice answered. Maria? Liam's voice was calm and smooth, but there was a hint of surprise, as if he hadn't expected her to actually call. Yeah, it's me, she said, her voice a little shaky, but she quickly recovered. I wanted to thank you for the coffee the other day. And, I guess I was wondering if you'd like to meet up again. Maybe talk about the job you mentioned. There was a brief pause on the other end of the line, and Maria could feel the tension in her chest. She wasn't sure what she was expecting, but she had braced herself for rejection. To her surprise, Liam laughed softly. I'm glad you called, he said, his voice warm. I was hoping you would. I've been thinking about our conversation too. How about we meet for coffee tomorrow afternoon? I'd like to talk more about what we discussed. Maria's heart skipped a beat. Tomorrow, she repeated, trying to mask the excitement creeping into her voice. That sounds good, she managed to say, trying to keep her cool. Great, Liam replied. I'll text you the details. See you then, Maria. After the call ended, Maria sat there, staring at her phone in disbelief. She had done it. She had actually called him. And now, she had an opportunity, one she never thought she'd get. She smiled to herself, but the smile quickly faded as doubts crept in. Was this really happening? Was she really going to meet a CEO again, after everything? The next afternoon, Maria found herself standing outside a trendy coffee shop, dressed in her best clothes, which, admittedly, were still the same ones she wore to work every day. But she had tried her best to look presentable. She nervously adjusted her blouse and checked her reflection in the window. It wasn't much, but it was the best she could do. She could already feel the anxiety building up inside her, but she tried to shake it off. She was here for a reason, after all. As she walked inside, she scanned the room for Liam. It didn't take long to spot him. He was sitting at a corner table, his phone in hand, his posture as confident as ever. He looked up as soon as she approached, his eyes lighting up with recognition. Maria, over here, he said, standing up to greet her. The moment they locked eyes, she felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. He wasn't just some rich CEO, he was a person, just like her. He smiled as she sat down, and for a moment, the world seemed to slow down around them. I'm glad you could make it, he said, his voice easygoing. How's your day been so far? Maria smiled back, feeling a little more at ease. It's been okay. Busy, just the usual, she replied, trying to keep things casual. She wasn't used to this, used to being around people like him, but she was trying. Liam nodded, looking genuinely interested. I can imagine, he said. I've been busy too, but I wanted to take some time to talk to you, to see what we can do about helping you out. Maria blinked, surprised. Helping me out? She asked, not sure she had heard him right. Liam chuckled softly. Yes, I've been thinking about it, and I think you have potential. I don't know if you'd be interested, but I'd like to offer you an internship at Parker Tech Group. You've got the right attitude, and I think you could learn a lot with the right guidance. Maria's eyes widened. This was it. The opportunity she had been dreaming of. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. You really? She asked, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam nodded. Really? I believe in giving people chances, Maria. And I think you deserve one. Maria felt a rush of emotions flood through her, a mixture of disbelief and excitement. This was her chance, her way out. She had been given a golden opportunity, and it was all because she took a chance and called him. Thank you, she whispered, almost not believing it. You don't know what this means to me. Liam smiled warmly. You're welcome. Just remember, this is only the beginning. The next few weeks felt like a whirlwind for Maria. What had started as a simple mistake at a restaurant had turned into an opportunity she never thought would come her way. Liam's offer to intern at Parker Tech Group was a dream come true, but it also brought a new set of challenges. She was used to working hard, but this was different. This wasn't just about making ends meet. This was about stepping into a world she had only ever seen from the outside. The first few days at Parker Tech were a blur. Maria walked into the sleek, modern office building, her stomach in knots. The towering glass doors opened, revealing a world of polished floors, high ceilings, and a quiet hum of ambition that filled the air. It was nothing like the diner. She felt out of place, like a fish out of water. But she reminded herself that this was her chance to prove herself, to show that she belonged here. Liam had been welcoming when she first arrived. He gave her a quick tour, introducing her to the team, and then set her up with a desk. The work was challenging, but Maria was determined. She dove into every task with the same passion she put into everything else. She had no experience in tech, but that didn't matter to her. She knew she had the drive to learn, to make the most of this chance. Every day, she watched Liam from afar. He was as confident and composed as ever, his presence commanding the room, and yet, he always made time to check in with her. Sometimes, he would stop by her desk to offer advice. Other times, he would invite her to grab coffee and chat about her progress. It was during one of these casual coffee breaks that Maria felt something shift between them. They were sitting at a small cafe near the office, and for the first time since they met, Maria felt completely at ease with him. There was no pressure, no expectations, just two people talking. How's it going so far? Liam asked, stirring his coffee absent-mindedly. It's been a lot, Maria admitted, laughing a little. But I'm learning. I didn't think I'd be able to keep up, but I'm trying my best. You're doing great, Liam said with a smile. I can see it. You've got the kind of determination that gets results. Maria blushed slightly, not used to receiving praise like this. Thanks. I don't want to mess this up. This is the chance of a lifetime. You won't mess it up, Liam said. I wouldn't have offered it to you if I didn't think you could handle it. The way he said it, with such genuine confidence in her, made her heart race. She realized then that it wasn't just about the job or the opportunity anymore. It was about him. There was something magnetic about Liam, something that made her feel like maybe she was more than just a waitress from a diner. Maybe, just maybe, she could be someone more. Over the next few weeks, their interactions grew more frequent. Liam would often ask her opinions on things, bringing her into meetings and discussions that made her feel more involved in the company. The more she learned, the more she started to believe in herself. Slowly but surely, Maria's confidence grew. But with that confidence came the realization that her feelings for Liam were starting to change. She had tried to push it aside, to focus on the work, but every time she saw him, every time they spoke, her heart skipped a beat. She knew she had to be careful. He was her boss, after all. The last thing she wanted was to complicate things. Still, she couldn't help it. It was hard to ignore the way he looked at her, the way he seemed to genuinely care about her well-being. It was hard not to wonder if there was more to their connection than just work. One evening, After a long day of meetings, Liam asked her to stay behind for a few minutes. "I need to talk to you about something," he said, his voice serious but not unkind. Maria's heart raced, her mind immediately jumping to the worst-case scenario. Was she being let go? Had she made a mistake? "Of course," she said, trying to hide her anxiety. Liam motioned for her to sit down across from him. "I've been watching your progress," he began, his tone thoughtful. "And I have to say, I'm impressed. You've grown so much in a short amount of time. I think you're ready for more responsibility." Maria blinked in surprise. "More responsibility?" "Yes," he said with a nod. "I think you're ready to take on a larger project, maybe even lead one. I'm not just talking about tech stuff, either. You have a natural way with people. You could be an asset to the team in a much bigger way." Maria's mind was spinning. She hadn't expected this. She had only just started feeling like she was keeping up, and now he was talking about giving her more work, more pressure. She wasn't sure if she was ready for all of that. I'm honored, but I'm not sure if I'm ready for that," she said, her voice tinged with uncertainty. "I don't want to mess things up." Liam smiled warmly, his eyes kind. "Maria, you've already proven that you're more than capable. You just need to trust yourself. Trust that you belong here. I believe in you, and I think you should believe in yourself too." His words struck a chord deep inside her, and for the first time, she felt truly seen. She realized then that this wasn't just about a job anymore. It was about who she was becoming, who she could be. And maybe, just maybe, that included a future with Liam. As she left the office that night, her heart was lighter than it had been in years. She had come a long way from the shy waitress who barely made ends meet. She was on the verge of something big, something life-changing. And she wasn't going to let fear hold her back. The next chapter of her life was just beginning. The following weeks at Parker Tech felt like a series of firsts for Maria. She had never imagined herself in a position like this, moving between conference rooms, contributing to team meetings, and even presenting ideas in front of executives. With every task, every new challenge, she felt herself growing, not just professionally, but personally as well. Her confidence was no longer fragile. It was becoming solid, and every bit of growth she experienced made her feel like she was finally becoming the person she had always hoped she could be. But with all this change came a nagging feeling in the back of her mind. Maria couldn't deny it any longer. She was developing feelings for Liam. He had been kind to her, encouraging her when she felt out of place, pushing her to grow and believe in herself. She was starting to realize just how much she admired him, not just as a boss, but as a person. His patience, his calm demeanor, the way he seemed to genuinely care about her progress. It all made her heart flutter whenever he was near. But she kept pushing those feelings aside. She couldn't afford to complicate things. He was her boss, and even if there was something between them, it couldn't go anywhere. That was the reality she had to face. One day, after a long meeting, Liam asked her to meet him for lunch. Maria was a bit surprised, but she agreed, curious about what he wanted to discuss. They went to a quiet cafe nearby, the kind with soft jazz playing in the background and a peaceful atmosphere that seemed worlds away from the corporate world. As they sat down, Liam smiled at her, his eyes warm. "You've been doing great, Maria," he said, taking a sip of his coffee. "I've noticed how much you've grown in the past few weeks, and I think you're ready for something bigger." Maria smiled nervously, not entirely sure where this conversation was going. "Bigger?" she asked, trying to keep her voice steady. "What do you mean?" "I think you're ready to take on a project of your own," he said. "Something that will challenge you even more. You've proven that you have the skills, and now I want to see you take the lead." Maria's heart skipped a beat. She had been working hard, but she had never expected to be put in charge of something. "Lead a project?" she repeated. "Are you sure I'm ready?" Liam nodded. "You're more than ready. I believe in you, and I think the team does too." He paused for a moment, letting the words sink in. "This is your chance, Maria. I'm giving you the opportunity to step up, and I know you'll make the most of it." Maria's mind was racing. She had always dreamed of being in charge, of leading a team, but the reality was both thrilling and terrifying. What if she failed? What if she wasn't good enough? Liam seemed to read her mind. "You're not going to fail," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "You have everything it takes to succeed, and I'll be here to support you every step of the way." Maria looked at him, her heart swelling with gratitude. She had never had someone believe in her like this before. It wasn't just about the job anymore. It was about the trust he was placing in her. "Thank you," she whispered. I won't let you down. Over the next few days, Maria threw herself into the new project. She worked late nights, gathered input from team members, and pushed herself harder than she ever had before. The pressure was intense, but so was the excitement. She felt alive with possibility. Liam's words echoed in her mind as she worked. I believe in you. It was exactly what she needed to hear when doubts crept in. On the day of the big presentation, Maria stood in front of the team, her palms sweating, her heart racing. She had worked tirelessly to prepare, and now it was time to show everyone what she was capable of. As she began her presentation, she noticed Liam sitting in the back of the room, watching her intently. His presence gave her strength, and she spoke with more confidence than she ever thought possible. The meeting went smoothly, the team responded positively, and by the end, Maria felt a sense of pride that she had never experienced before. She had done it. As she walked out of the room, Liam approached her, a proud smile on his face. You did an amazing job, Maria, he said. I knew you had it in you. Maria felt a rush of emotions, relief, excitement, and something deeper, something she hadn't quite been able to put into words. She had proven herself, but it wasn't just the success of the project that made her feel proud. It was the fact that Liam had seen something in her that she hadn't seen in herself. He believed in her, and now, she was starting to believe in herself too. That evening, as she walked home, Maria couldn't help but think about how far she had come. From the nervous girl sitting at a wrong table on a blind date to a confident woman leading a major project, everything had changed. She had worked hard, and now she was beginning to realize that the life she had dreamed of was within her reach. She had the chance to build something bigger for herself, and she wasn't going to let it slip away. As for Liam, well, she still wasn't sure what to make of her feelings. But for the first time, she allowed herself to think that maybe, just maybe, there was more to their connection than she had initially thought. As the weeks went by, Maria's confidence continued to grow. Leading the project had opened her eyes to the person she could become, and she was thriving in her new role at Parker Tech. She no longer saw herself as just a waitress from a small diner, struggling to get by. No, she was Maria now, someone who had earned her place, someone who was capable of achieving great things. But as her career took off, so did the emotions she had been trying to push aside. Every time Liam spoke to her, praised her, or simply looked at her, her heart would race. The connection between them was undeniable, and yet, Maria couldn't bring herself to act on it. He was her boss, after all, and she was determined to maintain professionalism at all costs. Despite the growing tension between them, Maria remained focused on her work. She had learned to navigate the complexities of the tech world, and with each new challenge, she became more comfortable in her own skin. Liam, on the other hand, seemed to have a newfound respect for her. He'd often ask for her input on important decisions, and his confidence in her only made her want to work harder. But there was still a line between them, one that neither of them dared to cross. One afternoon, as Maria was wrapping up a meeting with the team, she was surprised to see Liam standing at her desk, holding a cup of coffee. He looked different today, less businesslike, more relaxed, and for the first time, Maria noticed a slight hesitation in his movements. Hey, Liam said, handing her the coffee. I thought you might need a break. She looked at him, confused for a moment. A break? She asked, surprised by the gesture. Yeah, he said, taking a seat across from her. I just wanted to talk. It's been a while since we've had a proper conversation. Maria felt a knot form in her stomach. There it was again, the feeling that she couldn't quite explain. Every time they spoke like this, it felt like something more was happening between them. But she kept her focus, taking the coffee and sitting down beside him. Sure, she said, trying to sound casual. What's on your mind? Liam took a deep breath, his eyes meeting hers. I've been thinking, he began, his voice quieter than usual. About everything that's been going on. About how much you've accomplished in such a short time. And about how I've been thinking about you. Maria's heart skipped a beat. Thinking about me, she repeated, unsure if she had heard him correctly. He nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. Yeah, I know it's complicated, but I can't help it. I admire you, Maria. More than you know. Maria's breath caught in her throat. She wanted to say something, to respond, but the words wouldn't come. All she could do was look at him, her mind racing. Could this really be happening? Liam, she started, but she was interrupted by the sudden chime of her phone. She quickly glanced at the screen, relieved to see that it was a text from Jenny. "You okay?" it read. "You're not ignoring the CEO, are you?" Maria smiled faintly at the message, feeling a rush of warmth and frustration. She quickly texted back, "I'll talk to you later," before putting the phone down and turning her attention back to Liam. The moment had passed, but the tension between them lingered. "I should go," she said, standing up quickly. "I have a meeting in a few minutes." Liam looked at her, his expression softening. "Of course," he said, standing up as well. "But we'll talk again, okay?" Maria nodded, feeling her chest tighten. "Yeah, we will," she said quietly. As she left the office later that afternoon, she couldn't shake the feeling that something had changed. The unspoken connection between her and Liam was stronger than ever, and she knew that sooner or later, one of them would have to address it. But for now, Maria focused on her work, determined to prove herself and succeed in her career. She knew she had a long way to go, but the road ahead seemed a little less daunting now. The next few days passed with little change. She continued to thrive in her role, and the work kept her busy enough to push aside her growing feelings for Liam. But that night, as she sat at home, her phone rang. It was Liam. Her heart skipped a beat as she stared at the screen for a moment before answering. "Hello," she said, her voice shaking slightly. "Maria," Liam said, his voice calm but with a certain intensity. "I know this might be sudden, but I've been thinking about everything. I think it's time we talk about us." Maria's heart pounded in her chest. She had been waiting for this moment, but now that it was here, she wasn't sure how to respond. "Us?" she echoed, her voice barely above a whisper. Liam's words hung in the air for a moment before he spoke again, his tone more sincere than ever. "I think we both know what's going on here, Maria. We can't keep pretending it's nothing. So let's talk, really talk." Maria's mind was racing, her pulse quickening. She had known this conversation was coming, but she wasn't sure if she was ready. Yet, deep down, she knew that this was the moment when everything would change, when the connection between them would finally be put to the test. Maria sat on the couch, her phone pressed to her ear, her heart pounding in her chest. She had been waiting for this moment, the conversation that would determine everything between her and Liam. But now that it was happening, she wasn't sure if she was ready. She had known something had been building between them, but hearing him speak about us made it all feel real, and that terrified her. "Liam," she said, her voice shaky. "I don't know what to say." There was a brief silence on the other end of the line before Liam responded, his voice low and calm. "You don't have to say anything right now, Maria. I just think we need to be honest with each other. We've both been tiptoeing around this, pretending it's nothing. But it's not nothing, is it?" Maria took a deep breath, closing her eyes as she tried to collect her thoughts. "No," she finally admitted. "It's not nothing." Her heart was racing. She had tried to ignore her feelings for Liam, telling herself that it was just admiration or that it was all part of the excitement of her new job. But the truth was undeniable. She had developed feelings for him, deeper feelings than she was comfortable admitting. "I've been trying to focus on the job," she continued, her voice quiet, "on proving myself here. But it's hard when you keep showing up, being kind, and making me feel like I matter." "Maria," Liam said softly, "you do matter. You matter to me. And it's not just because of the work you're doing. I see you, Maria. I see the person you are. And that's why I can't ignore this any longer." Maria's mind spun. Could he really be saying what she thought he was saying? Was he feeling the same way she was? She had never allowed herself to hope for anything more than a professional relationship with him. But now, hearing the sincerity in his voice, she couldn't help but wonder if there was more. "I don't want to complicate things," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. "This is my dream job. I don't want to mess it up, especially with you." There was a long pause before Liam spoke again, his voice firm but gentle. "Maria, I don't want to complicate things either. But I also don't want to hide how I feel. I've tried, I really have. But I can't keep pretending that I don't care about you." Maria felt a wave of emotion wash over her. She had been so afraid of what this could mean, of how it might affect her career, that she hadn't allowed herself to truly process the connection between them. But now, with Liam's words, she realized how deeply he cared, and how much that meant to her. "I care about you, too," she finally admitted, her voice trembling. "I didn't think I could feel this way, especially with everything going on at work. But I do. I care about you." Liam exhaled slowly on the other end of the line, as if releasing a breath he hadn't realized he was holding. Then we're on the same page, he said softly. We don't have to figure everything out right now, Maria. But I think we deserve to give this a chance, don't you? Maria's heart swelled. She had been afraid that their connection would remain unspoken, that she would have to keep her feelings buried deep inside. But here they were, acknowledging it, and she realized that it wasn't something to fear, it was something worth exploring. Yeah, she said, her voice more confident now. I think we do deserve that. There was a quiet moment between them, and Maria allowed herself to breathe, the weight that had been pressing on her chest slowly lifting. So, what happens now? She asked, a hint of uncertainty still in her voice. We take it one step at a time, Liam replied, his tone steady and reassuring. We don't have to rush anything. But I'm willing to see where this goes, if you are. Maria smiled softly, feeling a warmth spread through her chest. For the first time in weeks, she felt a sense of peace, as if everything was finally falling into place. I'm willing, she said quietly. I really am. After a few more moments of silence, Liam spoke again, his voice lighter. Well, then, how about we start with dinner? Just the two of us, no work talk. Let's get to know each other outside of the office. Maria laughed softly, the sound light and genuine. That sounds perfect, she said. As they made plans for the evening, Maria's mind raced with possibilities. She had started this journey unsure of where it would lead, but now, she felt hopeful. For the first time in a long time, she wasn't afraid of what the future held. She had found more than just a career at Parker Tech. She had found a connection that could change everything. That night, as she got ready for their dinner, Maria felt a sense of excitement she hadn't felt in a long time. She wasn't just stepping into a new chapter of her career. She was stepping into a new chapter of her life. One where she could truly be herself, both in her work and in her heart. She smiled at her reflection in the mirror, knowing that whatever happened next, she was ready for it. The evening went by in a blur, but for Maria, it felt like the most natural night she had experienced in a long time. Liam had suggested a small Italian restaurant tucked away on a quiet street, far from the busy office building and the constant pressure of their work environment. As they sat across from each other at a candlelit table, the atmosphere felt different, lighter, more relaxed. For the first time, they weren't just CEO and employee. They were two people, getting to know each other in a completely different setting. Liam was just as charming as always, but tonight, there was a warmth in his eyes that made Maria feel like they were on equal ground. So, Liam began, taking a sip of his wine. Tell me more about you. I feel like I only know the professional Maria, the one who works at Parker Tech. What about you outside of work? Maria smiled, a little surprised by the question. Outside of work, huh? She said thoughtfully. Well, I guess I'm just a regular person. I love art mostly. Drawing, painting. I've always had this dream of opening my own studio one day. But with everything going on, it feels like it's always on the back burner. Liam leaned forward, genuinely interested. A studio? That's incredible. Why not go for it? I mean, if it's something you really care about, why wait? Maria's heart fluttered at the thought. I don't know, she admitted. I guess I've always thought it was something I'd never be able to do. You know, being realistic about what I can achieve. I've been focused on surviving, not thriving. Liam's expression softened, his gaze steady. Maria, you've already come so far. You're not just surviving. You're building something real. I know what it's like to put your dreams on hold because life gets in the way, but it's never too late to start. If you want to open that studio, I believe you can. Maria looked at him, her chest tightening. It was hard to believe that someone like Liam, someone so successful, was speaking to her like this. But she felt a strange sense of validation, like maybe her dreams weren't as impossible as she had thought. Thank you, she said softly, the words feeling heavier than she expected. That means more than you know. They continued talking about their lives, their passions, and their dreams for the future. Maria found herself opening up in a way she hadn't before, feeling more connected to Liam than ever. There was no pressure, no expectations, just a shared moment between two people who had found something real in the midst of everything else. As they finished their meal, the conversation shifted to lighter topics, but the connection they shared remained undeniable. When the check came, Liam insisted on paying, despite Maria's protests. It's the least I can do, he said with a grin. Besides, I'm not letting you pay after such a great night. They left the restaurant, stepping into the cool evening air. Maria felt a sense of contentment she hadn't felt in a long time. There was something about tonight, about Liam, that made everything feel possible. As they stood outside, Liam turned to her. "Thank you for tonight, Maria," he said, his voice softer now. "I know we've been dancing around this, whatever this is between us. But I think it's time we stop pretending it's nothing." Maria's heart raced. This was the moment she had been both dreading and hoping for. She had felt the tension between them for weeks, but now, hearing him say it out loud, it felt real. "I agree," she whispered, her voice barely audible. Liam stepped closer, his gaze never leaving hers. "Maria, I want you to know that I care about you. I have for a while now. And I think we should see where this goes." Maria's breath caught in her throat. She had been afraid of this moment, afraid of what it might mean, but now that it was here, all she could think was that it felt right. "I care about you too," she said, her voice trembling. "More than I've let myself admit." For a moment, neither of them spoke. The city was quiet around them, and the only sound was the soft rustle of leaves in the breeze. Then, slowly, Liam reached out and took her hand in his. "Let's not overthink it," he said, his voice calm and reassuring. "Let's just see where this goes." Maria nodded, feeling the weight of the decision settle over her, but in a good way. This was the start of something new, something she hadn't expected, but something she was willing to explore. "Okay," she said, her heart swelling with a mixture of excitement and relief. "Let's see where this goes." As they stood there, hand in hand, the future felt wide open. Maria wasn't sure where this road would lead, but she was ready to walk it, side by side with Liam. For the first time in a long time, she felt like she had everything to look forward to. And maybe, just maybe, this was the beginning of something even more amazing than she could have ever imagined. As the weeks passed, Maria and Liam grew closer, their connection deepening with each day. What had begun as a chance meeting at a restaurant had now blossomed into something real, something that neither of them had expected but both cherished. Maria had never imagined that she would be walking this path, especially with someone like Liam. But here she was, not just succeeding in her career, but also finding something meaningful in her personal life. At work, Maria continued to shine. She had fully embraced her new role and was thriving in ways she had never thought possible. The team trusted her, and her ideas were being taken seriously. Liam, always supportive, was there every step of the way, but not in the way she had initially feared. He was not just her boss. He was her partner in this journey, someone who believed in her abilities and made her feel valued. Outside of work, they spent more time together. They went on long walks in the park, had quiet dinners at home, and shared their hopes and dreams for the future. They laughed more than they had in a long time, finding joy in each other's company. Maria's dream of opening an art studio was still on her mind, but now, it felt more possible than ever. Liam had been a constant source of encouragement, offering advice and ideas, but most importantly, he had given her the confidence to believe that she could make it happen. One evening, as they sat on the balcony of their apartment, watching the sunset, Maria turned to Liam. "I've been thinking," she began, her voice soft but steady. "I want to go for it. I want to open the studio. I don't want to wait anymore." Liam smiled, his eyes meeting hers with warmth and understanding. "I knew you would," he said gently. "And I believe in you. You've always had the talent, Maria. Now, you've got everything you need to make it happen." Maria smiled, feeling a surge of gratitude. "Thank you, Liam," she said quietly. "For everything. For believing in me when I didn't believe in myself." Liam reached for her hand, squeezing it gently. "You don't need to thank me," he said. "I just helped you see what was always inside you. You're going to do great things, Maria. I'm just glad I get to be part of this journey with you." Maria felt a rush of emotion at his words. She had come so far since that first blind date, from a waitress unsure of her future to a confident woman on the brink of realizing her dreams. And now, with Liam by her side, she felt ready to take on whatever came next. The road ahead was still uncertain, but she no longer feared it. She had found her place, both in her career and in her heart. As the months went by, Maria began to lay the foundation for her art studio. It wasn't easy, and there were days when she doubted herself, but each step forward brought her closer to her goal. Liam was always there, offering support, encouragement, and the occasional push when she needed it. It was more than just love. It was a partnership, built on mutual respect, trust, and a shared belief in each other's potential. One day, as they walked through the streets of the city, Maria turned to Liam, a smile on her face. "I think we're ready," she said. "The studio. It's ready to open." Liam's eyes lit up, and he pulled her into a tight hug. "I knew you could do it," he said, his voice full of pride. "You've worked so hard for this." Maria laughed, feeling a sense of accomplishment she hadn't felt before. "We've worked hard for this," she corrected him. "I couldn't have done it without you." They walked hand in hand, their future bright ahead of them. Maria had achieved what she once thought was impossible, not just in her career, but in her personal life as well. She had built a future for herself, one that she could be proud of. And as she looked at Liam, she knew that this was just the beginning. The road ahead would have its challenges, but together, they could face anything. She had found love, support, and a partner who truly believed in her. And for the first time, she felt like she was exactly where she was meant to be.